Hey there, gang. The risk of a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico is increasing. This is the first stab forecast from the National Hurricane Center for a storm that will soon be called Helene, which likely will be a major hurricane. It's not much to look at right now, but it will rapidly intensify, then make landfall likely in Florida on Thursday. By then, we could be talking a major hurricane that's Category 3 plus with winds over 115 miles per hour. The greatest risk of direct impacts is between like Apalachicola and Cedar Key, Florida, but keep in mind, many more folks could be impacted. At this point, there's still an enormous range of scenarios, so everybody has to pay attention to this one. Then even once a storm makes landfall and moves inland, we're talking tornadoes, flooding inland rains, and still some more gusty to severe winds as far north as perhaps Georgia or South Carolina. For now, though, I think anyone between like Biloxi and Fort Myers at the coastline needs to really be taking this one seriously. It will likely be the worst hurricane of this season, so again, this one could be a doozy. Meanwhile, I have my tickets. I'm heading down for this. We'll have live streaming coverage in the MyRadar app. Stay tuned, follow me, follow MyRadar for the latest. In the meantime, we take a look on infrared satellite right now. We see this big clumping of convection, shower, and thunderstorm activity. This is the seedling for the storm. It's east of Honduras and Guatemala, south of Cuba. It's in the Northwest Caribbean. In the past hour or two, I've noticed a bit more of a low-level swirl, so kind of a low-level center of circulation, and I think there are some thunderstorms moving over it, and that could stretch that vorticity or spin upwards enough that we get like a column of spin, basically a center of the storm, and the storm can kind of organize itself around it. So this might be sort of the process by which this thing really gets going. If that happens, we could have a tropical storm by late tonight to early tomorrow morning. Then one of two things happens. Either this thing kind of threads the needle up the Yucatan Channel, so between Cancun and western Cuba, and then starts to intensify, or it passes over western Cuba, but realistically, I don't think that'll weaken it. I think it'll still be strengthening by Wednesday. Then it passes over extremely warm water temperatures of 86 to 89 degrees in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That means off-the-charts oceanic heat content, hurricane fuel. It's like an untapped powder keg, and really, anything that passes over the Gulf this time of year is going to be pretty mean. By Wednesday, it's likely undergoing rapid intensification. The models indicate that's a big likelihood here. And the other thing too, as it parallels Florida, it will pass over something called the loop current, or like this little extra tongue of very warm water that is just off the west coast of Florida, meaning this thing could strengthen right up until the point of landfall if conditions allow. In addition, we've got spreading in the upper atmosphere, divergence. That will further help rapid intensification. It's like a vacuum upstairs. The more exhaust we fan away from the storm, the more warm, moist air comes up out of the bottom, and the storm strengthens. It's like blowing a leaf blower over a chimney. The more air that blows out, the more it comes in. Then we fuel the fire. Meanwhile, Helene will be slingshotted northwards and probably be accelerating at the last minute, meaning it'll punch farther inland before starting to weaken. The reason being, this pocket of cold air, low pressure and spin, this mid-level low that is off the northwest, will kind of scoop it northwards. We see that really well right here in this animation. See that scooping of it, so that's something we really have to watch. So putting things together, I do think a Category 3 at landfall is likely, maybe worse. That would mean 115 mile per hour plus winds in the core of the storm, and a storm surge over 8 feet at the immediate coastline. Meanwhile, farther inland, we're talking tornadoes, flooding rains, and still some damaging to perhaps destructive winds, maybe 100 miles plus inland. This is something to really take seriously. We only have 72 hours until landfall. We'll see watches, warnings, all that stuff tonight or tomorrow, but really, now is the time to prepare. Call your neighbors, call your loved ones, call Mima, make sure she has the meds she needs, the water she needs, she's in a safe place. If you have anyone who has mobility issues, make sure they're taken care of as well, because you don't want to wait until evacuations are issued to start taking action. Now is the time to start to prepare. You have 3 days. Use them wisely.
Follow MyRadar on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Download MyRadar on iOS, Android, Amazon Alexa, and Windows.